Good morning, guys. All right, this week we will be reading books 10 and 11 of the Odyssey. Book 10 is called Circe, the Grace of the Witch, and book 11 is The Land of the Dead. Now, it's a very rainy, dreary day, so it's kind of dim and dark in here, and I would put on all black just to kind of be in the spirit of these two sections of the Odyssey. So, a recap on the timeline before we start. We have Odysseus, a mighty hero who helped win the Trojan War by coming up with the plan of the Trojan horse. After he wins this war, he takes his fleet, his ships and men, and they head home to Odysseus's kingdom, Ithaca, where he has a wife and child. Now, along the way, he raided some towns to get supplies and loot from his enemies, and then he came upon the lotus eaters who eats lotuses and just chill out and relax. And Odysseus almost lost men there, but he tied them up and brought them home. Then he came upon the Cyclops Island. Now, this was very important to the story because he blinds the Cyclops, who is Poseidon's son, and the Cyclops then curses his journey home and prays to Poseidon to make it happen. Poseidon listens to him, so the rest of the Odyssey is the struggle of Odysseus getting home after he's been cursed by Poseidon. So after he escapes the Cyclops, we get to book 10, which is Circe, the Grace of the Witch. Odysseus and his men next land on the island of Aeolus, the Wind King, and stay with him a month. To extend his hospitality, Aeolus gives Odysseus two parting gifts: a fair west wind that will blow the fleet of ships towards Ithaca, and a great bag holding all the unfavorable stormy winds. Within sight of home, and while Odysseus is sleeping, the men open the bag, thinking it contains gold and silver. The bad winds thus escape and blow the ships back to Aeolus' island. Now, the king refuses to help them again, believing now that their voyage has been cursed by the gods. The discouraged mariners next stop briefly in the land of Laestrygones, fierce cannibals who bombard the fleet of ships with boulders. Only Odysseus, his ship, and its crew of 45 survive the shower of boulders. The lone ship then sails to Aea, home of the goddess Circe, who is considered by many to be a witch. There, Odysseus divides his men into two groups. Eurylochus leads one platoon to explore the island while Odysseus stays behind on the ship with the remaining crew. So Odysseus is telling this story to the king after escaping Calypso. In the wild wood, they found an open glade around a smooth stone house, the hall of Circe. And wolves and mountain lions lay there mild in her soft spell, fed on her drug of evil. None would attack. It was strange, I tell you. But switching their long tails, they faced our men like hounds who look up when their master comes with tidbits for them, as he will from table. Humbly, those wolves and lions with mighty paws fawned on our men, who met their yellow eyes and feared them. In the entranceway, they stayed to listen there. Inside her quiet house, they heard the goddess Circe. Low she sang in her beguiling voice, while on her loom she wove ambrosial fabric, sheer and bright by that craft known to the goddesses of heaven. No one would speak until Politis, most faithful and likable of my officers, said, Dear friends, no need for stealth. Here's a young weaver singing a pretty song to set air a-tingle on these lawns and paven courts. Goddess she is, or lady. Shall we greet her? So reassured, they all cried out together, and she came swiftly to the shining doors to call them in, all but Eurylochus, who feared a snare. The innocents went after her. On thrones she seated them, and lounging chairs while she prepared a meal of cheese and barley and amber honey mixed with Pramenian wine, adding her own vile pinch, to make them lose desire or thought of our dear fatherland. Scarce had they drunk when she flew after them with her long stick and shut them in a pigsty, bodies, voices, heads, and bristles all swinish now, though minds were still unchanged. So squealing in they went, and Circe tossed them acorns masting, cornelberries, fodder for hogs who rot and slumber on the earth. Down to the ships Eurylochus came running to cry alarm. Foul magic doomed his men. But working with dry lips to speak a word he could not, being so shaken. Blinding tears welled in his eyes, foreboding filled his heart. When we were frantic questioning him, at last we heard the tale. Our friends were gone. Eurylochus tells Odysseus what has happened and begs him to sail away from Circe's island. Against this advice, however, Odysseus rushes to save his men from the enchantress. On the way, he meets the god Hermes, who gives him a magical plant called Molly to protect him from Circe's power. Still, Hermes warns Odysseus that he must make the goddess swear she will play no witch's tricks. Armed with that, he must make the goddess swear she will play no witch's tricks. Armed with the Molly and Hermes' warning, Odysseus arrives at Circe's palace. Circe gives Odysseus a magic drink, but it does not affect him, and he threatens to kill her with his sword. Circe turns the pigs back into men, but puts them all into a trance. They stay for 1 year until Odysseus finally begs her to let them go home. She replies that they must first visit the land of the dead and hear a prophecy from the ghost of Tiresias before she lets him go. Book 11, The Land of the Dead. Odysseus and his crew set out for the land of the dead. They arrive and find the place to which Circe has directed them. Then I addressed the blurred and breathless dead, vowing to slaughter my best heifer for them before she calved at home in Ithaca, and burn the choice bits on the altar fire. As for Tiresias, I swore to sacrifice a black lamb, handsomest of all our flock. Thus, to assuage the nations of the dead, I pledged these rites, then slashed the lamb and ewe, letting their black blood stream into the well pit. Now the souls gathered, stirring out of Eurybus, brides and young men, and men grown old in pain, and tender girls whose hearts were new to grief. Many were there too, torn by brazen lance heads, battle slain, bearing still their bloody gear. From every side they came and sought the pit with rustling cries, and I grew sick with fear. But presently I gave command to my officers to flay those sheep, the bronze cut down, and make burnt offerings of flesh to the gods below, to sovereign Death, to pale Persephone. Meanwhile I crouched with my drawn sword to keep the surging phantoms from the bloody pit, till I should know the presence of Tiresias. One shade came first, Elpenor of our company, who lay unburied, still on the wide earth as we had left him, dead in Circe's hall, untouched, unmourned when other cares compelled us. Now when I saw him there, I wept for pity and called out to him, "How is this, Elpenor? How could you journey to the western gloom swifter afoot than I in the black lugger?" He sighed and answered, "Son of great Laertes, Odysseus, master mariner and soldier, bad luck shadowed me, and no kindly power, ignoble death I drank with so much wine. I slept on Circe's roof, then could not see the long steep backward ladder coming down, and fell that height. My neck bone, buckled under, snapped, and my spirit found this well of dark. Now hear the grace I pray for in the name of those back in the world, not here. Your wife and father who gave you bread in childhood, and your own child, your only son, Telemachus, long ago left at home. When you make sail and put these lodgings of dim death behind, you will moor ship, I know, upon Aia Island. There, O my Lord, remember me, I pray. Do not abandon me unwept, unburied, to tempt the gods' wrath while you sail for home, but fire my corpse and all the gear I had, and build a cairn for me above the breakers, an unknown sailor's mark for men to come. Heap up the mound there, and plant upon it the oar I pulled in life with my companions. He ceased, and I replied, Unhappy spirit, I promise you the barrow and the burial. So we conversed in grimly at a distance, with my long sword between, guarding the blood, while the faint image of the lad spoke on. Now came the soul of Anticlea, dead. My mother, daughter of Autoclysus, dead now, though living still when I took ship for holy Troy. Seeing this ghost I grieved, but held her off, though pang on pang of tears, till I should know the presence of Tiresias. Soon from the dark that prince of thieves came forward bearing a golden staff, and he addressed me, Son of Laertes and the gods of old, Odysseus, master of the landways and seaways, why leave the blazing sun, O man of woe, to see the cold dead in the joyless region? Stand clear, put up your sword, let me but taste of blood, and I shall speak true. At this I stepped aside, and in the scabbard let my long sword ring home to the pommel silver, as he bent down to the somber blood. Then spoke the prince of those with gift of speech. Great captain, a fair wind and the honey lights of home are all you seek, but anguish lies ahead. The God who thunders on the land prepares it, not to be shaken from your track, implacable and rancor for the sun, whose eye you blinded. One narrow strait may take you through this blows, denial of yourself, restraint of your shipmates. When you make landfall on Thraciacia, first and quit the violent sea, dark on the land you'll find the grazing herds of Helios, by whom all things are seen, all speech is known. Avoid these kine, hold fast to your intent, and hard seafaring brings you all to Ithaca. But if you raid the Beeves, I see destruction for ship and crew. Though you survive alone, bereft of all companions, lost for years under strange sail, shall you come home to find your own house filled with trouble, insolent men eating your livestock as they court your lady. Aye, you shall make those men atone in blood, but after you have dealt out death in open combat or by stealth to all the suitors, go over land on foot and take an oar, until one day you come where men have lived with meat unsalted, never known the sea, nor seen sea-going ships with crimson bows and oars that fledge like holes for dipping flight. That spot will soon be plain to you, and I can tell you how. Some passer-by will say, What winnowing fan is that upon your shoulder? Halt, and implant your smooth oar in the turf and make fair sacrifice to Lord Poseidon. A ram, a bull, a great buck-boar, turn back and carry out pure hecatombs at home to all wide heaven's lords, the undying gods, to each in order. Then a sea-born death soft as this hand of mist will come upon you when you are wearied out with rich old age, your countryfolk and blessed peace around you. And all this shall be just as I foretell. Odysseus speaks to the shade of his mother. She tells him that Penelope and Telemachus are still grieving for him, and that his father Laertes has moved to the country where he too mourns his son. Odysseus' mother explains that she died from a broken heart. Odysseus also speaks with the spirits of many great ladies and men who died, as well as those who were being punished for their earthly sins. Filled with horror, Odysseus and his crew set sail. So that's book 10 and 11. I hope you enjoyed it. In the next video, we'll analyze what we just read. Bye, guys! Stay away from the underworld.